11 families came to meet her. 11 families she turned away. Some she ignored, some she walked away from. One she simply looked at and went to sleep on. The shelter called her unadoptable. Nova called it waiting. On a rainy Saturday, 7 months later, a woman walked in looking for nothing in particular. Nova walked to the front of her kennel for the first time in weeks. What happened next took about 4 seconds and changed everything. The file on Nova's kennel door at Maplewood Animal Rescue was 4 pages long, not because she was sick, not because she was aggressive, because in 7 months, 11 families had come to meet her, and Nova had refused every single one of them. The first family she ignored completely. They stood at her kennel for 6 minutes, making the sounds people make at cats, and Nova sat with her back to them and looked at the wall. The second family brought their daughter, who pressed her face against the kennel bars and said "kitty" approximately 40 times. Nova walked to the far corner and sat down facing away. The third family was a couple who had driven 40 minutes specifically to see her. Nova looked at them once, yawned with the full theater of someone who found the entire situation beneath her, and went to sleep. By family 7, the shelter staff had started calling her the interviewer. Not unkindly, just accurately. Nova had standards. The problem was that nobody seemed to meet them. The shelter manager, a woman named Ruth who had seen everything in 22 years of rescue work, wrote one line in Nova's updated file. "She's waiting for someone specific. We just don't know who yet." The unadoptable label came from a volunteer who meant well. Nova had been at the shelter for 7 months, which in rescue terms was a very long time for a healthy 2-year-old cat. The label stuck, and after that, fewer families asked to meet her. Nova did not seem bothered by this development. She had her routines. Every morning, she sat in the patch of sunlight through the east-facing window with the focused appreciation of someone who had identified the best seat in the building and secured it permanently. Every afternoon, she supervised the feeding rounds from the top of her kennel. Every evening, without fail, she sat at the front of her kennel, faced the door, and waited with the quiet certainty of someone who knew exactly what they were waiting for. Lauren was 38 years old, a high school English teacher who had spent the last 14 months getting through a divorce, a move, and the particular exhaustion of rebuilding a life from pieces. She wasn't looking for a cat. The shelter was 3 doors down from the used bookstore she visited every other Saturday, and she had walked past it 47 times without going in. On the 48th time, it was raining. The bookstore was closed. Lauren stood on the sidewalk for a moment, looked at the shelter door, and went in. She told Ruth she was just browsing. Ruth nodded and said nothing. Lauren walked the rows slowly. She stopped to say hello to a beagle mix who was extremely enthusiastic. She admired a pair of tabby kittens asleep in a pile. She paused at kennel after kennel, reading the cards, taking her time. When she reached Nova's kennel, Nova was sitting at the front of it, watching the door, same as every evening. They looked at each other. Nova stood up, walked to the kennel door, and pushed her nose through the bar gap. Lauren reached out one finger. Nova pressed her face against it and closed her eyes. "What's her name?" Lauren called to Ruth. Ruth appeared with the expression of someone who had been waiting 7 months for this exact moment. "Nova," she said. "She's been here a while." "Why?" Ruth smiled. "She's particular." Lauren looked at Nova. Nova looked at Lauren. "I'll take her," Lauren said. Ruth processed the paperwork faster than she had processed any paperwork in 22 years. The first night was not what Lauren expected. Instead of hiding under the bed, Nova walked out of the carrier, surveyed the apartment with the methodical attention of a building inspector, and claimed the armchair by the window within 4 minutes. She walked through the apartment like she had seen the floor plan in advance and found it acceptable. By the end of the first week, the apartment had been reorganized according to Nova's preferences. The armchair was Nova's, the left side of the bathroom counter was Nova's. Lauren's things had migrated to the right without any formal negotiation. The weighted blanket on the couch was Nova's, specifically between 9 p.m. and midnight, after which Nova would relocate to Lauren's feet for the remainder of the night. Lauren adapted to all of this without quite realizing she was doing it. Still here and haven't subscribed yet? That honestly stings. Hit that button. You'll want to see what's coming. The funny moments were less slapstick than Lauren had expected, and more theatrical. Nova had a specific chirp she used exclusively when birds appeared outside the window, a rapid, indignant sound that suggested she found their presence personally offensive. She had developed a habit of sitting directly on whatever Lauren was trying to read, always centered, always spine up, and always with the settled expression of a cat who considered this an improvement to the situation. Lauren started reading on her phone. Nova started sitting on her phone. Some stories are too good to keep to yourself. 3 weeks in, Lauren had a bad night. Not dramatic, just the quiet kind of bad that comes at the end of a long week when the apartment feels too still and the silence has a weight to it. She sat on the couch without turning on the television, without picking up her phone, without doing anything at all. Nova came from the bedroom. She jumped onto the couch and sat down directly next to Lauren, closer than her usual distance, close enough to touch. She didn't climb on her, she didn't demand attention. She just sat there, her warm side pressed against Lauren's arm, and purred. Not loudly, just steadily, like a small engine that had decided to run. Lauren didn't move for a long time. This is the kind of love that deserves to be seen. By the second month, Lauren had stopped thinking of the apartment as the place she had moved to after everything fell apart. It had become something else. Nova's fault, mostly. The chirping at birds, the precise occupation of every surface, the 9 p.m. blanket relocation, the steady purring on bad nights, all of it had layered into something that felt, unexpectedly and completely, like home. Ruth called to check in at the 3-month mark. "How's Nova?" she asked. Lauren looked across the room. Nova was in the armchair, in the afternoon sun, eyes half closed, tail moving slowly. "She's good," Lauren said. "She seems very settled." "She always knew what she was waiting for," Ruth said. "She just needed the right person to walk in on a rainy Saturday because a bookstore was closed." Nova opened one eye, looked at Lauren, and closed it again. She had always known. Is it possible that animals choose us more carefully than we choose them? Tell me in the comments.